Hey everyone, it's Celeste. I wanted to give you a little update on an area of my yard where I'm gonna actually do some repotting of trees, and this is sort of cacti and succulent related, at least because I tend to put the plants at the base of the trees. But the challenge that I've got is that, as you can see, this is sitting in the shade. This is a lime tree, and it's getting leggy because as you can see, it's just not getting enough sunlight. And as I mentioned, I tend to put some of the succulents down here at the bottom, but you can see how leggy these also are because this is a fairly shady spot in the yard. So a couple choices I have: I can basically cut back the branches of the big tree that is shading this area. Not something I really want to do though, because I do count on that shade to kind of help with keeping my backyard from being too hot, especially under the pergola. The other option is move the tree, and I actually happen to have over here in this corner a avocado tree which has never done anything, no fruit, nothing. And it's kind of in a prime location, and it's got a big giant pot that it's in. So one of my employees at work is interested in having this avocado tree. I forewarned her, hasn't produced anything, so no guarantees. And these guys are a little cranky. They don't necessarily always produce fruit for you, and I'm just kind of tired of waiting. Plus, like I said, this is one of the sunnier spots that I have. As you can see, I put a lot of my cactus over here. So I'm thinking I'm going to yank this guy out, and instead I'm going to put the lime tree right here. It'll enjoy having more light, and that will be nice. Plus it'll have this nice big pot that it can be inside of. And I think then I will also like that, because over here on this side, then I don't necessarily need to have something right there. I could put a different kind of plant. Maybe I'll put the euphorbia I've got right there. It's just super cool. So that might be what I decide to do. I don't know. But I'm gonna go ahead and start working on this afternoon, moving this tree over, make sure that it's getting better light, and get this backyard a little more sorted out. Oh, by the way, if you haven't spotted it yet, and I need to fix it because it's falling over, but this is what's called a mermaid's tail. The plant is called Senecio, and it's crested. Found it out front. I've got it on one of the plant of the day videos, but you can see this guy's a monster, and it's really heavy, and I'm having a hard time with it. Plus it's also growing all these extra little branches off of it, so I kind of need to look at that, fix it, and decide what I'm gonna do with it. Don't know yet. So we shall see what I end up doing with it. But the main thing is I just want to get this tree into a better state, because now I'm actually getting some little fruit, which is so cool. So I'm excited about that, and they'll do better ripening if they're sitting in the sun and not in the shade. So by the way, this year is the first time this tree is fruiting for me. I'm just so excited. And oh my gosh, it smells so beautiful. You can see some more of the little fruit that are starting, and getting some more blooms. And this thing is just a stunner, and it smells so good. Citrus blooms are some of the best ever. So I think we'll help this plant quite a bit, moving it into a place where it's going to get more sun, and then I'm going to give it some fertilizer, but it's also going to have benefit from having a bigger pot that it's in, and then also new soil, as I'm sure it's probably pretty compacted inside of that pot. And who knows, I might get aspirational and decide that those pots need to get fixed too. So anyway, I'll take you along in the journey as per usual, as I am repotting the trees. and give you a little view of what's going on with the yard right now. Okay. All right, so stick with me and I will walk you through. The main part being, I'm not going to show you the dumb part around just moving the trees over. That's pretty straightforward. But I will show you as I redesign this pot what I'm doing around it so that it looks nice. Because right now it's just kind of a hodgepodge of cuttings, and I want to do something that looks a lot nicer in this corner. Okay. All right, so my next update, I will hopefully have the trees moved and then we'll start in on the pots. Thanks, bye. Hey everyone. Okay, I am mid-process here. So I have pulled out the avocado tree. Basically what I had to do was cut around, so I have this nice shovel like this. Sorry, try not to go so fast so I don't cause problems for you getting dizzy or sick. But I pulled out, I basically went in a circle around the avocado tree so I could make the root ball smaller, so you could see it fits inside that bag. It's sitting over there now. And it was basically so that I could get it out of the pot easier. What was interesting, I didn't realize avocado trees don't have tap roots, or at least this one didn't, for some weird reason. So, but some things that I'm thinking about, getting the soil level low enough so that I can fit the new tree into it. So, again, try not to go too fast here. Here's the tree, here's the pot. I'll move it closer so that I don't kill myself from a back perspective, but you can see I yanked all of the succulents out of there. And then what I'm doing is just, I'm assuming that the pot, it's fairly big here, right? So I'm assuming that the pot, there's going to be some soil down at the bottom, and this sucker isn't completely root bound. We'll see. But I'm wanting to pull it out, so I'm going to move it closer and then move it in. So I'm kind of trying to make the hole that the in the new pot basically representative of something that's close to this. I also don't want to really mess with the roots, and I showed you earlier in the video, but it's got fruit that's coming on, and then it's also got some flowers that are going, and I think it will get shocked if I cut the roots, and so I want to be really careful that I'm not doing that. And you can see some of them up there, and so I want to try to not do that to this plant as much as I possibly can. As per usual, you can see I'm pulling out the plants and I'm organizing them. So I've got all of my trailers right here, got a bunch of the fillers right here, into here, got the aeoniums that were inside there, and I'm going to cut off the pretty parts basically, and that's what's going to go back inside the pot once I'm ready to put more in there. But the main thing is going to be moving the tree into this bigger pot, which I think it'll be happier about. I took out a bunch of the soil. A couple reasons for that is to make the room, but also the reason why is because one of the things that you want to do, especially if you have a planter that's been sitting for a while, is you want to check basically are there nutrients in the soil. So soil test kits and everything like that. Yeah, if that's you, go for it. For me personally, I just smell the soil. And if it's got a lot of organic matter in it, if it's got nutrients in it, it's going to have this super earthy smell to it. If it doesn't, and it's kind of stale, and doesn't smell like that, then that's usually because there aren't any nutrients in the soil. So taking the soil out is a good idea in this case, because it definitely smells like that. Also, I was really surprised how dry this pot was, which is probably part of why the avocado tree was super unhappy with me all the time. But so I'll have to do a better job watering. I'm clearly really good at doing that for cacti and succulents, but not for fruit trees. So anyway, so I'm gonna go ahead and put the tree in this and get the soil put back in around. And I'm gonna use some different soil that I've got that has more nutrients in it so that the tree can do better. But that's the next bit, and then I'll show you the next step. Okay, so here we are. So I have put the tree inside. I actually had to get my son to help me because it was way too heavy and I was like, just couldn't do it. So had to bring my poor son out. I feel so bad for him because, you know, mom has a hobby, so does the son. So poor guy. But you know, he's always a sweetheart and helps me out with this stuff. You can see I've started putting in some of the kind of the fundamental pieces. So I'm going to talk about a couple things that I'm thinking about here. This tree, you can see it leans, right? So it's leaning this way, and a lot of the growth is right there. And like I mentioned previously, the problem is it was getting leggy because it wasn't having enough sun. So I'm intentionally doing this. The sun comes from, basically, if I'm facing the tree like this, the sun would be behind me. So I'm doing this on purpose because what I want to do is encourage growth on this side. I also want to encourage the tree to kind of right itself by starting to lean more towards the sun. So that's what it's going to do. You know, as the sun comes up every single morning, it will hit the tree right here on this side. That's kind of, let me show it from this angle so you can see. You can see it really needs to start stimulating growth along that side, right? So I'm doing this on purpose so that I can get it to balance itself out. So that's the first piece. Also because this is a walkway right here. So I don't want to put those big branches that are on the other side right there in the way. It's a citrus tree, so it has thorns. I've watered this in several times as I was putting this in the pot, and the main reason is because I want the soil to compact as much as possible. Of course, I was pushing it down as I was putting it in, but I needed to compact because I don't want this to eventually sink. It will over time anyway, but I want it to try to stay in here as much as possible. Something to mention that when I did pull this out, it was starting to circle the pot. That means that the roots were actually getting root bound inside of the old pot. So I was correct that it was in too small of a pot and it definitely needed to be moved. So it'll like this nice big extra space. I teased some of the roots. Teasing the roots means I was loosening the soil. And so what that does, as you do that around the edges of the pot, you want to do that because you want to encourage the roots to start growing again. Otherwise, what will happen is in the center of the pot, you'll have this kind of like root-bound tree, and then there'll be a bunch of like a ring of soil that's around the outside, and it really won't grow into that. So I want to make sure that I'm teasing those roots and kind of pulling it naturally into the other soil so that it starts to stabilize itself. From a design perspective, I'm starting to put in what's called the trailing plants. So you can see I put a lot of these in. These plants, this is a Thona capensis. For me, in my area, I'm zone 9B. This is a semi-invasive plant, and so I'm just putting a little bit in, but what it will do is it will expand. I mean, within months, it will be all the way around this whole edge of the pot. So I'm just putting it in little strategic spots around there. So when you're planting a pot, you're going to have a thriller. So that's my central tree here, right? That's my thriller. So the thriller is typically upright. Then you're going to have what are called fillers. So those are, think of them as like shorter, fatter, squat type of plants that you're going to put around from a design perspective. And then you have spillers, and that's what these guys are. So typically when I'm putting a pot together, what I do, you get the thriller in place. I put the spillers in because it's easier to do right from the beginning. You can see I'm starting to add in the big elements. So I got this really, really, really beautiful rock from the local rock yard. If you watch one of my other videos, you'll see where I put in a driftwood fountain, and I used a lot of the rock in there. But I mean, this is just, look at this. I mean, this is like the coolest rock ever. And it just looked like it needed to be upright. So I think that will be gorgeous. I really liked all of the veining on this rock as well. So this is the super pretty side. Just offsetting it. So from a balance perspective, 1, 2, 3, right? So you hear me talk about this a lot. do not put evens in. So you want to make sure that you have 3 big elements. So this, the thriller, that one, and that one. Everything is in 3s, 5s, 9, like that, right? Keep it odd numbers, 7, 9, you know, like that, right? Because that's gonna make it look much nicer when you're putting it together. And the other thing to think about is that your brain is going to try to, when you put 2 of something in or 4 of something in, it's going to want them to all look the same. Plants don't grow like that. they have their own individual little personalities. So the problem is that it'll constantly look off, and you'll keep looking at it and saying, why does this look off? Why does this look off? That's why. It's because your brain is trying to make things that are, you know, nature, and they're just going to grow the way that they're going to grow. It's going to try to make them match, and that won't look good. So again, think in terms of odd numbers anytime that you're putting anything in. Okay, so the next piece that I'm going to be working on, I'm going to be adding in those fillers around in, and I think for this design, it's kind of weird, like lately I've been wanting more like a clean aesthetic, so I don't know, and I'm going to add a bunch of plants in. We'll see as I go through what I end up doing with it, but you know, it's kind of just like a feel thing for me, so I'm just gonna go through and we'll see, and then I'll share with you in a second what the final design ends up being like. Okay, here's the final design. Part of, like I said, I'm not adding as many plants as I used to. I used to just really like to fill pots and do more of a tapestry type of look, and now you know, that's just, I don't know, kind of going for this kind of more space type of look. Also doing something which I think is super cute, which is kind of this. I like how when, you know, when you're putting rocks in, for example, and it kind of frames it out like that, it's like this little peekaboo coming around the corner, so you can see I have that right there, which is super cute, just kind of coming around. So depending on the angle that you're looking at it, just look like the little plants are popping out. And I've got another one in the back that I did a similar type of thing with the plants kind of popping out. These little aeoniums back here. So it's doing a similar type of thing around the rock. And if you think about that in nature, the reason why that looks good to our eye is because in nature, that's what plants do, right? They kind of, the seeds naturally fall, if you think about it, or cuttings or leaves or anything like that, they would fall, you know, against the corner of a rock or the edge or something like that, and then they work their way in, and so it just looks balanced because of that. And so I like that a lot, but I like that little, you know, kind of peekaboo look. Got more aeoniums in the back, and those aeoniums, blushing beauty, some of the teacup kind. Here's another kind that's variegated over here. Should be super cute as they grow. You'll notice that some of these are variegated. Cannot remember the name of it, but basically I ordered them because I liked that white and green variegation like that. These ones towards the back, they'll get like a purple color, and you can see these ones right here, they're going to get red. So that's going to give me a lot of the color, especially as the plants start to get stressed out. And then this is a little Keisha Khan. I had one in the front that I pulled out, and it had a bunch of babies on it, so I thought it'd be kind of cute to put that in there. Got the solar light in there, so the solar light will do 2 things. As it starts to come on, it'll light up that rock, and then it's also going to uplight the tree, so that's going to be super pretty. And there you go, kind of a revamp of this planter. And went from, you know, it looking pretty bad and that tree being super unhappy, and now it's going to have a nice little place to live and grow, and you can tell it's much cleaner, much nicer looking. So again, think in terms of fillers, and spillers. You're putting in the rocks. Think about where you can place bigger elements like those rocks. Make sure you've got odds when you're putting the different items in. You want to start from the big items first and then work your way towards the smaller items. And then make sure that you've got everything covered up from a rock perspective so you don't have any rot. And that's basically it. Alright, so I have a ton of cuttings left over and a ton of cleanup to do, and it's starting to get dark. I'm going to work on that for a little bit, and then I will take a video or take a quick little photo just so you can see once the lights come on what this actually turns into. But, you know, as per usual, if you find this content helpful, like and subscribe, and feel free to reach out and ask me any questions. And I hope you're having a wonderful weekend and you found some little corner of your yard that you can do something similar with. Thanks. Bye. Okay, well, as promised, I'll show you what the garden looks like at night. And you can see the lights are starting to come on, which is pretty cool. Here's that planter we did earlier today. It's not quite super dark yet, but you can see it's starting to light up that rock right there. We'll uplight the tree. It's going to get a lot more sunlight too on top of that solar light, so we'll do well with that. And you can see everything's starting to light up down the way. In the yard. So, oh, more lights coming on. My uplighting that I have for, this is my desert museum tree, which you can see is got the yellow flowers, the yellow blooms that are coming in right now. Super pretty. That's going to help create a microclimate for the yard, so I get a lot of sun right here in this area. And I'm going to put polycarbonate roofs on top of those pergolas, so that's going to be one of my next projects, just to kind of give them a little shelter, cut some of the UV rays. But you can see that tree is starting to get pretty tall. The tree is less than 2 years old, and when it came it was maybe 18 inches tall, so it gives you an idea how fast desert museum trees. And then I put some, just a solar light basically down at the bottom, and that's just providing some uplighting. And this is my dragon fruit, which I had to move into the sun because it wasn't growing, and now it's starting to do a little better, so it won't be so leggy. Actually give me some fruit. Had to read a little bit about how to fertilize, so I didn't realize that there's a bit more to it than just like the way that I do succulents, where I can just kind of stick them in the ground and let them grow, and it's not that big a deal. And I'll probably change around these pots a little bit because it feels a little unbalanced right now, especially when you look at it from this direction. Doesn't look the greatest, so I need to fix that, but I will do that tomorrow because I'm a little tired and ready to go inside. But just wanted to show you. It's the yard at night. So hope you're having a great weekend. Get out in your yards. Remember, there's no real right or wrong way to do any of this. It's just a matter of going out and doing it and having fun and learning and trying it again and trying it again, and eventually you end up with a jungle like this. All right, everybody, have a great weekend, and again, as usual, if this content's helpful for you, please like and subscribe. Send me any questions. Thanks so much. Bye.